The night I pressed my face against his shirt and smelled her perfume, I knew. But I wasn't ready for what came next. Because following that scent didn't just lead me to the truth. It led me to a betrayal so twisted, I had to burn everything down to survive it. What I discovered didn't just break my heart, it shattered the life I thought I knew. And before this is over, you'll see exactly how I made them both pay for every lie, every kiss, every moment they stole from me. If you've ever trusted the wrong person, you need to stay until the end of this. Hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets darker than you think. My name is Bryn. I'm 29 years old, and up until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I'd been married to Callan for 4 years. 4 years of what I believed was love, partnership, and trust. We had the kind of marriage people envied, or at least that's what I told myself every morning when I woke up next to him. We had our little routines, coffee together before work, lazy Sunday mornings, inside jokes that no one else understood. He was my best friend. Or so I thought, but I had another best friend too. Sutton, God, just saying her name now makes my stomach turn. But back then, she was everything to me. 8 years of friendship, 8 years of late-night phone calls, secrets shared, tears cried on each other's shoulders. She knew me better than anyone. She knew my fears, my dreams, the password to my Netflix account, and where I hid the spare key to my house. She was the sister I never had, the person I trusted more than I trusted myself sometimes. And that trust, that's exactly what made the betrayal cut so deep. It started on a Tuesday night. I remember because Tuesdays were always quiet for us. Callan usually came home around 7. We'd cook dinner together, watch something mindless on TV, and just exist in each other's presence. But that Tuesday, he came home late, nearly 10 o'clock. He walked through the door with this sheepish smile, mumbling something about work drinks running longer than expected. I didn't think much of it at first. I walked over to hug him, the way I always did, pressing my face against his chest, breathing him in. That's when I smelled it. Vanilla and amber, warm and sweet and unmistakable. Sutton's perfume. She'd worn the same scent for years. I'd bought her bottles of it for birthdays, for Christmas. I could recognize it in a crowded room. And now it was all over my husband's shirt. My body went cold. I pulled back slowly, searching his face for something, anything, that would explain it away. Maybe they'd bumped into each other. Maybe she'd hugged him hello at some event I didn't know about. But his eyes wouldn't meet mine. He kissed my forehead quickly and mumbled something about needing a shower. I stood there in our living room, frozen, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack through my ribs. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him and demand answers, but instead I just stood there, silent, as the sound of running water filled the house. That's when I noticed it, a small smudge on his collar, lipstick, not my shade, hers, deep berry red, the kind she always wore. The room started spinning, my hands started shaking, and somewhere deep inside me, beneath the shock and the denial and the desperate hope that I was wrong, a cold, hard truth began to settle in. My husband was cheating on me, and the other woman was my best friend. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I lay there in our bed, staring at the ceiling while Callan snored softly beside me, completely oblivious to the hurricane building inside my chest. Every few minutes I'd turn my head and look at him, this man I'd promised forever to, this man I'd built a life with. And all I could think was, how long has this been going on? How many times had he touched her, and then come home and touched me? How many lies had I swallowed without even knowing I was being fed poison? The questions wouldn't stop. They circled my mind like vultures, picking apart every memory, every moment, searching for clues I'd missed. When morning came, I got up before him, made coffee, went through the motions like a ghost in my own life. He kissed me goodbye at the door, told me he loved me, and I smiled. I actually smiled, because I wasn't ready to confront him yet, not without proof, not without knowing for sure. I needed to be certain before I burned everything to the ground. So I waited. I watched. And I started looking for cracks in the perfect life we'd built together. It didn't take long to find them. That night, Callan came home late again. Another work meeting, he said. I nodded, asked how his day was, and he gave me the same vague answers he always did lately. Busy, stressful, exhausting. But when he went to take a shower, he left his phone on the kitchen counter, face down. He always left it face down now. I'd noticed that over the past few weeks, but hadn't thought much of it. Now it felt like a red flag waving directly in my face. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I knew his passcode. He'd never hidden it from me before. Why would he? We were married. We trusted each other. Or at least I'd trusted him. I unlocked the phone and went straight to his messages. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely breathe. Most of the threads were normal. Work colleagues, his brother, me. But then I saw it. A deleted conversation. Only it wasn't fully deleted. One message remained, like a ghost that refused to disappear. It was from Sutton. The preview text made my blood run cold. "We can't keep doing this behind her back." That was it. Just that one line. But it was enough. It was more than enough. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The room tilted. My vision blurred. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone against the wall, to march into that bathroom and drag him out by his hair and demand the truth. But I didn't. I took a photo of the message with my own phone. I put his phone back exactly where he'd left it. And I walked into our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and cried silently into my hands. The next morning I called in sick to work. I told Callan I had a migraine and just needed to rest. He seemed concerned, kissed my forehead, told me to take it easy, and left for the office. The second his car pulled out of the driveway, I got dressed. I wasn't staying home. I was following him. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to know if my worst fears were real or if I was losing my mind. So I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove 3 cars behind him the entire way. He didn't go to his office. He went to a coffee shop downtown. And she was already there. Sutton, sitting at a table by the window, smiling, waiting for him. I watched them through the window, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Callan walked in, spotted her immediately, and his entire face lit up, the way it used to light up when he saw me. He slid into the seat across from her, and within seconds they were laughing. Actually laughing. Like they didn't have a care in the world, like they weren't destroying someone's life with every stolen moment. Then he reached across the table and touched her hand. Not a casual touch, not a friendly touch. His fingers curled around hers and stayed there. And she let him. She smiled at him the way I'd seen her smile 1,000 times before, but this time it was laced with something else. Intimacy, secrecy, guilt that she wore like a second skin but chose to ignore. I wanted to storm in there. I wanted to flip that table and scream in both their faces until my voice gave out. But I didn't. Because rage without evidence is just noise. And I needed more than noise. I needed ammunition. So I sat in my car, tears streaming down my face, and I took photos. Every angle, every touch, every smile. Then I drove home, locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed until I had nothing left. But crying wasn't going to fix this. Crying wasn't going to give me answers. So I dried my face, pulled myself together, and made a decision. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Sloane who came highly recommended and didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. I gave her everything I had, the photos, the text message, Callan's schedule, Sutton's address. And then I waited. 1 week. That's all it took. 1 week for my entire world to come crashing down in the form of a manila folder filled with proof I could no longer deny. Photos of them entering a hotel. Not once, not twice, multiple times over the course of several months. Text messages Sloane had recovered from a cloud backup Callan didn't know existed, messages that made me feel physically sick. I can't stop thinking about you. She has no idea. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. bank statements showing expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry purchases I'd never received, flowers sent to her apartment while I sat at home wondering why my husband had become so distant. 6 months. This had been going on for 6 months, half a year of lies, betrayal, and secrets. Half a year of him kissing me goodnight after kissing her. Half a year of Sutton sitting across from me at brunch, asking about my marriage, pretending to care, all while she was sleeping with my husband behind my back. I thought the discovery would break me. I thought I'd collapse under the weight of it all. But I didn't. Instead, something cold and sharp settled into my chest. Clarity, purpose, a need for justice that burned hotter than any heartbreak. I wasn't going to fall apart. I was going to make them pay. But first, I needed to see just how far their lies went. So when Sutton called me 2 days later, suggesting a girls' night, I said yes. I put on my best smile, my best dress, and I met her at our favorite restaurant. She hugged me when I arrived, told me I looked beautiful, ordered us wine like nothing was wrong. And then she started talking about this new guy she was seeing, wouldn't tell me his name. Said it was complicated, said she didn't want to jinx it. I sat there, nodding, smiling, sipping my wine while every word out of her mouth felt like a knife twisting deeper into my back. I spent the next 3 days planning, not in a frantic, emotional way. This was cold, calculated, methodical. I wanted them both in the same room. I wanted to watch their faces when the truth came crashing down. I wanted them to feel even a fraction of the pain they'd caused me. So I sent out a casual text to both of them separately. Game night at our place, Friday at 7. Bring snacks and your best competitive spirit. Callan thought it was sweet that I was trying to reconnect with friends. Sutton replied with 3 exclamation points and a heart emoji. They had no idea what was coming. I spent Friday afternoon setting everything up. I printed every single photo Sloane had given me, every text message exchange, every bank statement, every receipt. I organized them chronologically, like chapters in the most devastating book ever written. Then I loaded them onto a USB drive and connected it to our TV. I made sure the slideshow was ready to go. All I had to do was press play. I set out wine and cheese like this was any other normal evening. I even put on makeup, curled my hair. I wanted to look strong, untouchable. I wanted them to see exactly what they were losing. Sutton arrived first. She walked in with a bottle of red wine and that same bright smile she always wore. She hugged me, told me she missed me, said it had been too long since we'd done this. I hugged her back and felt absolutely nothing. Callan came down from upstairs a few minutes later, and I watched them carefully. They barely looked at each other. They were good. I'd give them that. Practiced. Professional liars. We made small talk, poured drinks, laughed at nothing in particular, and then I stood up, walked over to the TV, and turned it on. Before we start, I said, my voice calm and even, I want to show you both something. I pressed play. The first image filled the screen. Callan and Sutton outside a hotel, his hand on her lower back, her head tilted toward his shoulder. The room went silent. I watched them. Callan's face drained of all color. Sutton's hand flew to her mouth. Neither of them moved. Neither of them breathed. The next photo appeared, then another, then another. Their messages filled the screen, word by damning word. I can't stop thinking about you. She has no idea. The receipts, the gifts, the lies, all of it laid bare for them to see. Callan stood up, his mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning on dry land. Bryn, I cut him off. Don't. My voice was ice. I know everything. Every lie, every hotel, every time you kissed her and then came home and kissed me. Sutton tried to stand, her voice shaking. Bryn, please, I can explain. I turned to her slowly, and I saw her flinch. Explain? You looked me in the eyes for 6 months and lied. You sat across from me at dinner 2 days ago and told me about your new guy. You meant him, didn't you? I pointed at Callan. You meant my husband. She started crying, stammering excuses about how it just happened, how she never meant for it to go this far, how sorry she was. and something inside me snapped. I walked over to her, and before I could stop myself, my hand connected with her face. The slap echoed through the room like a gunshot. She stumbled back, holding her cheek, staring at me in shock. "I was working," I said, my voice shaking now, "to build our life. And you destroyed it." Callan stepped forward, his hands raised like he was trying to calm a wild animal. "Bryn, please, just listen. It was a mistake, it meant nothing. We can fix this." I laughed, actually laughed. It came out bitter and sharp, and it made him stop in his tracks. "Fix this? You want to fix this? You had 6 months to fix this, Callan. 6 months to choose me, to come clean, to stop lying, and you didn't. You chose her. Every single day you chose her." He tried again, his voice desperate now. "It just happened. We didn't plan it. It was in our bed," I said quietly. The room went silent. Sutton's face went white. Callan froze. "You think I didn't know? I found the evidence. Hotel rooms weren't enough for you, were they? You brought her into our home, into our bed, the bed where I slept every night, trusting you, believing in you." Sutton tried to speak, but I held up my hand. "Save it. Both of you. Get out. Get out of my house. Now." They didn't move fast enough, so I screamed it. "Get out!" Callan grabbed his keys, Sutton grabbed her purse, and they left. Together. Of course they left together. The second the door closed, I collapsed onto the couch, but I didn't cry. I'd cried enough. Now it was time for something else. Justice. I waited until Monday morning, then I filed for divorce. No conversation, no second chances. I walked into my lawyer's office with the entire folder of evidence and told her I wanted everything. The house, the savings, every single thing we'd built together. And I wanted him to pay for what he'd done. My lawyer smiled. She'd seen cases like this before. She knew exactly what to do. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because they didn't just betray me in private. They'd done it while pretending to care about me in public, while attending family dinners and birthday parties and acting like everything was fine. So I made sure everyone knew. I sent the evidence to both our families, to our mutual friends, to everyone who'd ever smiled at us and called us the perfect couple. I didn't add commentary. I didn't need to. The photos and messages spoke for themselves. Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages. Shock, support, outrage. Callan's mother called me in tears, apologizing for her son. My sister offered to drive over and key his car. But the most satisfying message came from a number I didn't recognize. It was from a man named Fletcher. He introduced himself as Sutton's fiancé. I had no idea she was engaged. She'd never mentioned him, never brought him around, and suddenly it all made sense. She'd been hiding him the same way she'd been hiding Callan, playing both sides, keeping her options open. Fletcher thanked me for telling him the truth, said he'd suspected something but didn't have proof until now. He was leaving her. That same day. I felt no guilt, only grim satisfaction. The revenge didn't stop there. A week later, I found out that Callan's boss had seen the evidence too. Someone had forwarded it to the company's HR department. Apparently, workplace affairs violated company policy, especially when they involved lying about business trips that were actually secret getaways. Callan lost the promotion he'd been working toward for 2 years. The promotion he'd used as an excuse for all those late nights, all those lies. And Sutton? She tried reaching out, dozens of texts, voicemails, apologies that meant nothing. I blocked her number, blocked her on every platform, erased her from my life like she'd never existed. 3 months passed, 3 months of lawyers and paperwork and dividing up a life I thought would last forever, 3 months of healing in ways I didn't know I needed. My lawyer was brilliant. She tore through Callan's excuses and his attempts to keep half of everything like a knife through butter. The house was mine, the savings account was mine, and because of the financial infidelity, the money he'd spent on hotels and gifts and dinners with her, the judge ordered him to pay me alimony. He'd have to support the life he destroyed. There was poetry in that. Dark, bitter poetry, but poetry nonetheless. I moved forward, not because I wanted to at first, but because I had no other choice. I started going to therapy. Twice a week in the beginning, sitting in that small office with the soft lighting and the woman who never judged me for crying or raging or feeling absolutely nothing at all. She helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, that I didn't cause this by working too much or not being enough, that their choices were theirs alone. And slowly, painfully, I started to believe her. I redecorated the house, threw out the bed we'd shared and bought a new one, painted the walls colors he'd always hated, hung art that made me smile. I started reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. Real friends. People who showed up when life got messy and didn't run away when things got hard. I even started a new job, a position I'd been too afraid to apply for before because it meant change and risk and stepping outside my comfort zone. But I had nothing left to lose. So I took the leap, and it was the best decision I'd made in years. Then one afternoon I ran into them, Callan and Sutton, at a grocery store of all places. I was picking up wine and pasta, planning a quiet night in, when I heard raised voices in the parking lot. I looked up and there they were, standing beside his car, clearly in the middle of a fight. She was crying, he was yelling, and I could hear every word. He was accusing her of cheating, of sneaking around behind his back, of lying to him. The irony was so thick I almost choked on it. I stood there, frozen, watching karma play out in real time. She screamed back that he was paranoid, controlling, that this wasn't what she signed up for. He shouted that he'd given up everything for her. His marriage, his family, his career. And for what? For someone who couldn't even be faithful. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I just walked past them, my head high, my shoulders back, and I didn't look back. Not even once. Because they weren't my problem anymore. They were each other's. And that was a far worse punishment than anything I could have ever inflicted. Now, standing here in my new life, I can finally breathe again. The pain is still there sometimes. It comes in waves, unexpected and sharp. But it doesn't control me anymore. I've learned something through all of this. Betrayal doesn't define you. How you rise from it does. I didn't lose anything that day I confronted them. I lost dead weight. I lost people who never valued me, who took my love and twisted it into something ugly and disposable, and in losing them, I found myself again. Here's what I want you to hear. Trust your gut. Always. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Demand your worth. Don't settle for scraps of affection from people who should be giving you everything. And never, ever let anyone convince you that their betrayal was your fault. You are not responsible for someone else's choices, but you are responsible for choosing yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I chose me. And I've never looked back. If this story hit you hard, drop a like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And remember, you're stronger than you think. Next time, I'll tell you how I caught my sister trying to steal my inheritance and the revenge that followed. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.